Hi, I'm the Ancient Ninja, and this is the Nexus of Truth. All right. I am super excited to start this new segment on the Nexus of Truth, where I will be reading and discussing my favorite CIA declassified documents. If you're not aware, the CIA has been silently declassifying documents for a while. You can quite literally Google CIA declassified documents and it pulls up everything. I believe there's like a 20-year cap as to how long they can keep them unclassified. So yeah, go ahead and put that into the World Wide Web and change your life. I think it's really interesting because most of the things you'll find on here are things that I see people arguing the validity of, and I'm like, man, you can find this on a document online. So the truth's out there. Before we get into the first document that I'm going to kick this segment off with, I do want to ask that you guys can like and subscribe. I'm trying to do this for a living, as I'm sure tons of people are. And your likes on the video not only put me into the algorithm, but the subscriptions just knock me up there. And if I can get to 1,000 subscribers, I can start monetizing the videos more and really, making this thing work. So yeah, your support is much appreciated. All right, so the first document that I'm going to get into is one of my favorite topics, and there are tons of declassified documents on this. I mean, they have complete programs for this, and it's always been something that I have known is real before I even researched it, and that is remote viewing. Now, I've seen people literally not even believe that remote viewing was a thing, and I find it hilarious because I'm like, they're probably remote viewing you right now. What's up, CIA? No, well, I'm already on camera, so you don't need to. And I wanted to start off with this document in particular because after reading it, it really hit me, and actually say a quote that I put into a reel now, that you're not inside the Matrix. The Matrix is inside of you. And I'm going to get into that. And as you see, I don't know which direction it's going to be on that I'm going to put it on, but I'm going to put the document up so you guys can read it with me. And please bear with me while I'm learning this, because I record these, edit these, design the cover, everything. So until I can afford to outsource this editing, I'm still going to be a little unsure of what direction it's on and stuff like that. So I'm just going to read, and you guys can read along with me. And and be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below and the stuff you think about this. I always want to know what your thoughts are when you're watching these videos. I'm constantly open to new knowledge, and I want to see if anyone else has read this and thought kind of the same thing about the Matrix. So I'm going to start off and just go in. So the document is titled Coordinate Remote Viewing, Theory and Dynamics. Coordinate remote viewing, CRV, is a psychic technique which permits a viewer to transcend time and space to view or perceive people, places, or objects without the viewer being physically present. And that's basically the summary of remote viewing. It's allowing you to do that. The phenomena of remote viewing has existed for many decades, with equally as many variations and techniques. Ingo Swann pioneered the development of the technique referred to as coordinate remote viewing, CRV, in the 1960s. 1960s, guys. I mean, this is back in a time where people weren't even thinking about this. There was too many wars going on, and among other things, that people just weren't even considering. I mean, this is before the internet was a thing. While little has been done by Swan to record the technique to paper, over the years, the methodology has been formally taught and the process improved upon. Project Sunstreak, a staff under DIA, has refined the process of teaching CRV to the degree that individuals possessing no known natural psychic abilities can be taught to remote view with extreme accuracy in a relatively short period of time. The training program for CRV takes approximately 6 months to complete, depending on the individual being trained. So like you heard it there. This is them doing these testings on people that don't have natural psychic abilities. And if you're reading that and you're like, well, what does that mean, natural psychic abilities? There are people that have more natural psychic abilities than others. And they actually have tests that they do on children where they used to take children out of school. I'm gonna go over this document on one of these segments and show you guys. They used to take children out of schools. They would tell the families that the kids were going on trips, and they were actually taking the children to these facilities and testing their psychic abilities. So your favorite show, Stranger Things? Yeah, that's based on a true story. So the training program is divided into 6 stages, with each stage increasing the scope and ability of the viewer. The stages must be completed in sequence, and there are no time limits in the training progression. Movement to the next stage of training is entirely dependent upon successful completion of the preceding stage. So these are the 6 stages, and we're about to go into each stage that they do. These are all purposed with the intent for the remote viewer, the subject, if you will, for them to kind of see how close they are and how powerful they are, even with no natural psychic abilities. All right, so we get into stages. Stage 1. Stage 1 is divided into 2 phases of training or focus. Phase 1 is designed to develop the viewer's ability to discriminate aspects of terrain, such as mountains, water, desert, etc. Phase 2 trains the viewer to work with the encrypted coordinates, which are keyed to specific geographical location, and to view this site or target. Now, you guys, when I found this out, this was something that I wasn't aware of, but when we get into this, we're about to get into it. In stage 2 of training, the viewer is taught the interpretation of sensory impressions, color, smell, temperature, etc. Stage 3 deals with recognition of dimension at the site. Stage 4 training introduces the viewer to abstract concepts. Stage 5 and 6 are considered advanced stages of training, where the viewer will experience a bit more flexibility in the training program. So basically what they're saying is, stage 1, you're teaching them how to determine like what's terrain in the area. Stage 2 is the coordinates, which is like longitude, latitude, and then it goes into things like color, smell, recognition of the dimension, all this. So they're forming your mind to understand it. So when you're remote viewing, you can get very accurate, visions of these places. During the CRV training process, as with all training, it has been found that the learning curve of viewers will establish a normal wave pattern that is increasing rapidly, peaking and tapering off until it encounters the next training stage. And it says, like, see the illustration, which we're going to look at that. This normal wave presents no problem as long as the viewer and monitor are aware that the tendency exists. Otherwise, there is the opportunity for a decrease in the retention curve due to frustration. So I'm going to be going over many documents about remote viewing, but something about it that they find when they're doing these tests is that the viewer can't be frustrated, stressed, any of those things. They have to be under complete serenity and in a calm mind to be able to do this, or else it starts messing with the accuracy of it. So this is the illustration that it talked about. These are the stages. It goes into talking about the learning curve as they're going up into each stage, and the performance level compared to that, and the time. So if you can read one of these graphs, I'm not going to explain how to read graphs, but this just kind of tells you as each phase increases where the typical non-psychic person is. So this is somebody that's not even got psychic abilities. This is just like your normal average Joe Schmo that doesn't even have any kind of abilities already. CRV is taught as a dynamic team process. Each session is conducted using a monitor and a viewer. So that's someone monitoring it and the person viewing it. The job of the monitor is to act as a co-pilot to the viewer, keeping him on track, on sight, and in perspective. The function of the viewer as part of this team is to enter an altered state and remote view the given target. So this is someone that is kind of helping them and keeping them in that area. And I mean, this is pretty common in a lot of these tests that you'll see that they do. The basic theory of how CRV works is very logical and easily comprehended, even by a non-psychic. Now notice that they've stressed this twice now, that it doesn't have to be psychic people. So it's going to tell you that you don't need psychic abilities to remote view. It's not like an exclusive thing. Anyone has the capability, and we're going to get into later when we read down why that is. While many theory questions remain unanswered, the fact is the stuff works. A summary of the CRV theory would follow these lines. Somewhere perhaps in the unconscious mind there exists what we will label the matrix. The matrix knows no boundaries and has no limitations. It contains all information about all things. It could be thought of as an omnipotent, or you could think of it as a database, etc. Now take a gulp of that. Okay, even the movie The Matrix has programmed us into thinking we're living in some kind of simulation. And so many people talk about this, the simulation theory. Are we in a simulation? I mean, even now more than ever, people are obsessed with like the whole we're in the Matrix kind of thing. And you hear popular people talk about it. When you're reading this, it very clearly explains that the Matrix is inside of us. It's inside of our mind, because we can alter the grid in any way. The grid is ours for the taking. It's not that we're on the grid's in us. So when you look at this and you look at these illustrations down here, you start to see that we as humans have so many capabilities of understanding things that we don't even recognize ourselves. And part of that is mainly the reason part of that is because people are so stressed with like everyday life and things going on that they don't have time or enough space in their brain to think about these, and we'll get into that a little later. So the matrix has within it patterns. Think of these as points within a three-dimensional box. See illustration. So when you're looking at this, you think of the matrix, which is in your mind. It's not you in the matrix. So they're not saying, oh, the matrix is you're inside that box and the matrix is around you. No, that cube is inside your mind. That's your mind. And then there are patterns of which your mind follows. And the more we go down, you'll see what they mean. The patterns within the matrix each poses and radiate their own energy. This energy is emitted in the form of a signal or signal line, which is peculiar to that specific pattern. This pattern has other names by which it is known. It can be referred to as a thought ball or a gestalt. A gestalt can be described as the pattern and all of its associated patterns. So this illustration below is one that perfectly describes it. So the matrix is within your mind. You think of that cube in your mind, and all of these little thought patterns, these little gestalts, how they're calling them, thought patterns, look at what they say. So movement, smell, color, texture, dimension, temperature, numbers, emotion, all of those things, and I know I just read that like out of order. All of those are patterns within your brain. So remember earlier when it said they want each stage is to get you to break down and understand those patterns? That's to help you understand those parts of your brain and how they're firing off. Okay, now we're going to go on. Cognitrons are a pattern product created by the interaction between neurons and synapses after either a physical or emotional event. Cognitrons exist in the unconscious mind and can exist as separate patterns or as clusters of related patterns. So you know all of the, well, if you don't know, but there are many different explanations for the human brain. It's one of the things that we haven't studied the most. So that's what they say, right? But clearly you see on these documents that they've studied it quite a lot. So when you look at this picture, this illustration that they've done, you have the matrix, which is in your mind. You have the gestalt, which are tiny little thought patterns that go into that. That is all coming from the unconscious mind. And then you have different things coming out, texture perceptions, color perceptions, all these. And that then forms tons of other little matrix balls. So it's like it expands in your brain. This is all happening, and this illustration is like just this one on the very right that talks about the cognitron, like the combination of them all together, the signal wave and how it's going. I mean, it's quite literally a database. That's what it is inside your brain. So it's mirroring the very thing that we're online seeing, right? So, okay. The more you go down, a practical explanation of training theory and how cognitrons apply to learning could be accomplished using the example of an athlete. An athlete practices to reach a training objective. This objective could be skill related, like a wrestling move. The move is rehearsed time and time again until it is done correctly or until significant improvement is made. Once improvement is made, training is ended on a positive note to allow for the formulation of cognitrons in the athlete's memory. It's basically saying the more they're doing these remote viewings, they kind of, pull it back after you got it, and then it forms that ability, like riding a bike. So then you start to understand how this is done, and then over time, the more you're testing, the more you're training, you get more powerful. These cognitrons will enable the athlete to accomplish the task spontaneously the next time the move is attempted. The same is true of psychic training. So, and when we go into more of these documents and start reading them, you'll see that this is years of testing this, and I'm sure they're still doing it today. What are we supposed to believe, that you're not? So, yeah. Clarification of this growing list of terms and definitions can be accomplished by walking through the process to this point. The monitor will read the viewer a set of encrypted coordinates, which this is when I said earlier the coordinates, talking about the coordinates, this is something I found incredibly fascinating. And it really is telling to how strong your mind is and how tapped in we are with the earth and the grid. And when I say grid, I quite literally mean the ley lines. So if you don't know what ley lines are, I've talked about them in one of my other videos, but they're just the lines that connect the earth, and it's quite literally the grid. So the coordinates, IG, and it says the coordinates, in very basic terms, the viewer's autonomic nervous system will respond to energy produced by the gestalt or pattern, and this response will manifest itself on the ideogram. In this registration on the ideogram that indicates that the viewer is receiving the signal line of the gestalt, the viewer will begin receiving impressions or perceptions of the target area, keyed to the specific issues he is concerned with, e.g. structure, terrain, emotions, etc. So, I'm going to explain this. So when you look at this, you see the matrix, which has all the thought patterns in it, everything that they're training your brain, and they're giving you coordinates. Longitude and latitude. They're giving you coordinates to a place, and your brain is so equipped. The matrix is so amazing inside your brain. That's why we're not in the matrix. The matrix is in us. I want you to understand that. They give these people that they're studying, which can be us, it can be anyone, everyone is capable of this. They give them coordinates, and it automatically goes to that coordinate in that place. Because see, through these phases, they've already trained them to understand what these mountains are, these colors, these da-da. So when they give them, they're like, okay, you're going to go here. Boom. And all of these different things on here, encrypted coordinates represent a location on the face of the earth. This signal then corresponds to the pattern gestalt of that set of coordinates, and then the autotone nervous system then picks up that signal basically and tells you where it's at, and you see where it goes to the mind and then to the paper. So it's telling you right there that this is how capable people are of being able to see these things. So this is where earlier when I said it's important to be relaxed while you're doing this, this is about to explain why. When speaking of the matrix or the gestalts and the related patterns, we are dealing with information which exists in energy form in the unconscious mind. The purpose of CRV training is to enable the viewer to extract this information from the unconscious and bring it into the conscious mind, where it can be used for whatever intended purpose. All information and perceptions drawn from the unconscious must be processed through the Lyman thresholds, or the conscious mind will not be able to receive it. So it's saying a lot of these things, these patterns, it's an unconscious setting within us, like I just read, and it has to be processed in a non-stressful, complete way in order for it to fully be activated in your brain. So you see where it says here, the Lyman threshold, and it's showing it going from the unconscious into the conscious mind. Now this is where when I read it, I was like, oh, okay. The transfer or passage of information is accomplished through the use of conduits or channels, which permit various types of sensory information to pass through. So you're already seeing that a lot of the things that we have technologically are modeled off of our mind, our brain, because it's the same thing, just in our mind. So you see the unconscious mind, which is the information pool. That's where the matrix and all those things would be up there. And then you have these conduits, all of these different things that go into your conscious mind. These are the things you think about every day, the things you look at, the things you see, things that are right there in front of you that aren't in the back of your mind. And notice down here it says survival, higher alternate uses, awareness. So all of these little things that are playing into your brain, this is coming from the unconscious mind. So, and then, okay, over here on the right, you see where it says conduits must remain clear, as many as possible for effective viewing. So that means that your survival skills, the things that are making you stressed out, all that, you have to be free of that in order for the remote viewing to really, really work and for you to really be able to be in these places. And this is the last part. This is page 6. And this little bit, kind of hit me in a way that was like, okay. Well, this explains why we live in a world that is just constantly stressing us out. Because if we lived in a world of peace, well, we would be able to access our psychic abilities, and they don't want that, do they? There's a number of inhibitors called physical inclemencies, which shut down a viewer's ability to pass information from the unconscious to the conscious or awareness. Each viewer has only a specific number of channels or conduits available in which to pass information through the Lyman threshold, separating the levels of consciousness. If an inordinate number of these channels are clogged with other functions, i.e. survival, sickness, fatigue, hunger, then the viewer's ability to pass information will be greatly impaired. In order for the viewer to be effective, the greatest number of these channels possible must be made available. Viewing when sick, hungry, etc. is not recommended. What has been discussed here is theory. Much cannot be explained, measured, or quantified to the standards demanded by the scientific community. While analytical data may not be in abundance in support of this theory, session reports and historical and experimental data exist to substantiate the fact that CRV is a reality. And I want to notice too that this whole time there's been tons of background noises that just had to come. It's always usually quiet, and now all of a sudden while I'm reading my first CIA declassified document on my channel, it's oh, it sounds everywhere. Hilarious. But I mean, what do you guys think of that? Isn't it crazy that the things that we need to be rid of in order to fully tap into our psychic potential are the very things that are troubling our world right now? Sickness, fatigue, hunger, survival. I mean, we're all pretty much in survival mode all the time. So what does that tell you? And when the government knows these things, they know that when we're not in that kind of mode that we can tap into these abilities. Why is everything so difficult all the time? Think about it. So I'm going to post a link to this document where you can find it and look over it yourself. I just want you to remember, when you're reading this, and we're going to get into more of the videos that I want to do, because they have done so much testing on this. I mean, it's been insane. But I want you to realize that we're not in a simulation, okay? They just want us to believe that because they want us to think that there's no hope, nothing is existing, that we're all pointless, because being in that mindset keeps us from being able to access our true mindset. So remember, you're not inside the matrix. The matrix is inside of you. Alright guys, well that is it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it was informing and that it's kind of inspired you to go and learn a bit more about these things by yourself, and leave a comment. Tell me if you like these kind of things, if you want to hear more of them. Even if you don't, I'm going to keep doing it. So yeah, and as always, never forget, keep it pointy.